Yo, my name is Chris. I'm a digital creator. What does that mean? I have no idea. Long story short, they hired me, Francis and Julio, and then, yeah, that was kind of the start of my career here in New York.
Welcome back to Oops, the podcast. I'm Francis Ellis.
Yeah, they were like happy about it. It started doing well. We started getting paid more. We started getting more ads.
Another client of yours, Matteo.
We were at like 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now we're about to hit 500K. It's not for the faint of heart. Like, I was never in this for the money. If you really want to make it in this, you can't be about the money. No matter what you're doing right now, video is the most important thing online, and TikTok and Reels, and it's not going anywhere. So I tell everyone, like, learn how to edit videos. I didn't know how to make podcasts when I started with them. I just never had a plan B, and I was like, I'm just going to make this work.
At this point, you have a super fat roster. You have Matteo, you work with Francis. Going back, what was the first time you realized that production in the YouTube space is something that you can fully bank upon for a full-time career?
I've always done video stuff, and I never thought of it. It was obvious to me now after the fact that I would be doing that, but at the time I didn't know how I'd get into it, or I just kind of like, but I'm like a YouTube watcher since like forever. So it was I've always thought of doing it, but I never thought I'd be in it. I started in sports, and then I was going to do that. And then I did that, and then I didn't like it. And I was like, all right, what do I do? And then just kind of fell into it.
You said like YouTube watcher, like take me back to like your formative YouTube watching years. Was it like the Casey Neistat time? Or
Always.
Like, was it
I've always
that?
watched YouTube from like 2008. So obviously I watched Casey and I watched his videos before the vlog started. So obviously he's a huge inspiration. And just like growing up in Westchester, not too far from here, and like coming to the city all the time, I was just like, yeah, this is the spot I want to be. Yeah.
At that point of your life, you were more of a consumer of content, if I may.
Yeah.
Like you were watching a lot of stuff. At what point you decided, hey, like this community itself, it feels really enticing, and I just don't want to be a consumer. I also want to be someone who is responsible and actually making these content. So what was that mindset switch, and how did you actually put some action behind it?
Just kind of like a progression that I didn't realize was happening to me, but I was just like...
So you're not conscious of it, but like at the same time,
I was just like, this is cool, I want to do this.
So like, see, like your approach is kind of similar to like one of my best friends, and he's also my business partner. He's his approach, and I think your approach is like super, like you guys are like towards the art more. Yeah. And eventually that leads you to wherever it leads you, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's way pure. Yeah. I'm not like that, because like I'm much more like intentional, and sometimes to my fault, my work is probably not as good as yours, because I'm seeking what I'm seeking. But no, that's like awesome that you approached it like from an artist point of view. Yeah. But then what was the first time you found your what was the first time you get paid for your job, let's say?
Just to cut back on that, I think that when this was starting, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like you couldn't really make money doing this. So it wasn't like even a thought that I bought this camera to make stuff, to make money. My first gig I got paid for was I did this sorority video in college.
Was it like a Rush video?
Yeah,
of course. Yeah,
it was actually kind of sick. It was like snowing that day, and I was very happy with the video.
Awesome.
I got paid like $40 and a $30. $40
so
and
you
a
just
30
had no idea how to price yourself.
I had no idea. I could have charged them so much money. They have a whole budget for this.
Yeah, so already they have money, dude.
Yeah, I know. They pay dues. And I had no idea. I didn't know. None of my friends did it. That was my first time getting paid.
I mean, it's corny to ask, like, but what was the feeling of like getting paid that you realized, oh shit, I can actually, get money. Like $40 is nothing, but like just that first like positive feedback loop, how did that lead you to get more gigs?
So I did that one, and then everyone was like, oh, this video's sick. Yeah, let's do more. So then I did a bunch more, and then I started working with the football team at my school, doing like the same kind of highlight videos for them.
D3, D2?
D3. Okay. Yeah. I had 6 credits left, and I was like about to graduate, and I had like 6 extra ones. So I was like, oh great, I'm gonna study abroad in Italy. I've always wanted to like go to Italy.
Are you Italian?
Yeah, I've been, but like I wanted to spend more time there, and then I like went to apply, but the minimum requirement for GPA was 3.0, but my GPA was a 2.99, and they wouldn't let me in. But I say that because everything happens for a reason, because at that point I thought I wanted to work in sports, and then I applied to this Rams gig doing video stuff, and then I got it by accident.
Did you choose Rams because Rams was your team, or like
I just like applied to, you can just kind of like mass apply. I was like mass applying for all the video jobs. Now that I had this reel of videos that from my football stuff. I had that, yeah.
And how was your experience at Rams?
It was so much work. Make internal highlight videos for the team to watch before the games and help with practice and do other miscellaneous stuff.
So once you wrapped up West Coast and came back, so what kind of prospects did you have and what was your lead?
So I never ended up finishing those credits.
Oh.
So I had to finish those when I got back. So I took like 2 classes online. And then as soon as those wrapped up, Francis, the guy who I eventually worked for, he put out a tweet and was like, I need a podcast producer of that has 25 years of experience or just
25 years of podcast producing experience?
Yeah.
That's all the years.
I know. So I just like applied, sent my reel. I had made a small podcast for a friend, but it wasn't really much. It definitely didn't count, but he liked my reel. And then long story short, they hired me, Francis and Julio. And then, yeah, that was kind of the start of my career here in New York.
From the outside, for a lot of people who are younger in their teenage years, this world of like production and podcasting, this may seem like something which is not approachable. They think like this is something which like happens in New York or like a quote unquote a little Hollywoody. But at the same time, the way you approached it was like, so like, oh, there's an opportunity. I saw the tweet. Let me just apply for it. And A leads to B, you got the gig just like you would get any other job.
Yeah.
So like talk to me a little bit about like how approachable it was when you applied for it.
Just like a brand new podcast. I didn't like really get paid much at all, but I was like, I trust you guys. I know this will work out in the future. And being able to like take that risk of like living at home and like knowing I'm going to invest my time in this because I know it's going to pop off. And then I was right.
At any point, did you have to explain what you were doing for a living to your parents?
Oh, yeah. They didn't really understand it up until like I moved out. I feel like they were still just like, can we help you get a job? Like, are you good? And then once I was like leaving, well, so this was in 2019 and I was supposed to move out like May 2020. And then COVID happened. I was like, all right, might as well stay at home. And then, yeah. And then the next June came around and they were like, you're leaving? You have enough money for this?
Oh, shit. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I do.
Some reason at that point, you decided to put your trust in that podcast.
Yeah.
And with your resume, I reckon like you could have applied to any other job in like, I don't know, like quote unquote more mainstream space.
Yeah.
And a job which you may not have enjoyed as much as producing the podcast for Francis. What was that pros and cons exercise in your head? And why did you decide to like kind of lean towards this modern YouTube creator economy?
I've always, I didn't go to school for this. I went to school for just like general communications. So I'm all self-taught. So I've always just been like, do it yourself first. And if you just like do the right things, it'll lead you to where you want to go. Also just like consuming YouTube forever. I didn't realize at the time that when I was doing that would help me in my career. But yeah, I've always like trusted myself and always trusted my gut. And in college, I like made that video and some stuff happened. I was like, oh, all right, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or I'm only going to do what makes me happy for the rest of my life. And that'll be video for now. And if I don't like that, then I'm done with that.
I love like how artists are like so like serendipitous and about this process.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
I know I'm not like that, but at the same time, when I meet people like y'all, are like who approach their craft and they're living from such like, and like it's like, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I'm honest with my work. I'm proud at my work. I know I'm not getting paid that much, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure as long as I'm happy with my work, it will lead to something which is cooler than what I'm right now. So like, at any point, did you had to like, I don't know, was there like any doubt in your head that this might not work out?
Honestly, no. I've just like always. I didn't know that it was gonna work, but I always just like trusted myself enough to
That's
like,
awesome. Yeah.
Like I knew that if this didn't work out, I would have met these people and then I could get in with this. I don't know. I've just never had a plan B. I've always just been like, I want to do this because it makes me happy, and that's what I'm gonna do. Like, yeah, I just like have never really thought about doing anything.
Were you
else.
surrounded by people who told you that, hey, Chris, the job which you're doing right now is actually good and it'll lead to something? Like in your head, what was like the reassurance factor that, hey, my job can actually be a professional level job?
I don't think people were like reassuring me that this could be a career, but they're like, the stuff you do is really good.
Okay. Yeah.
And that helped. But like, I've just always really believed in myself, I guess, as corny as that is, you know. I just never had a plan B, and I was like, I'm just gonna make this work. And
no, the reason I bring that up is like, when you think about like right brain jobs versus left brain jobs, like people whose job is like not creative, like for them, if they're doing a bad job or a good job, they can easily, like, people can tell them like, hey, I'm your boss, this accounting sheet that you submitted is just call, this is not it, go do it again. So like there's like a clear cut black and white binary process of you doing your job good versus bad. Whereas in the creative space, like there is like no said whatever. People have different styles, people have different like outcomes. They're approaching the craft from a different point of view. So that's why I think it's important for young people and young creatives to surround themselves with a circle which kind of tells them whatever, like, hey, so this is cool, this is something, but at the same time you have to also like kind of like be truthful to yourself and be like, hey, so this makes me happy, I'm gonna keep doing this until the point other people tell me that, hey, this is good. So I mean, like, props to you, like you stuck with it. And that's pretty clutch.
Well, at first when I started podcasting, is kind of black and white at first, because I was just like, it's definitely creative, but it's like, this is wrong, you need to do it this way, and just to like make things flow together. So it's not always just like creativity in the podcasting space. So now we are all set up. This is Acam, this is Julio Cam, this is Slew Cam, this is me Cam.
Yeah, podcasting is kind of like, the environment is like a controllable environment. It's not like you're out with your camera, like like filming trees and stuff, right? So like there is like a science and craft. It should flow, the conversation, this camera, that camera, get the reaction. So like there is like a craft to it. But obviously you can put your own touch to it and make it its own product. Shifting gears a little bit, like you brought up like you getting paid only like $45 or like $50 at the sorority video. From that point, like fast forward, you take the job with Francis for like whatever amount he offered you. And at this point, I'm pretty sure you're making more than that. What would you say to like A, pricing yourself properly, and B, at the same time in the beginning, being humble enough to like get in through the door? Like, what's that balance?
I don't know. I don't even like know how to explain it to other people, because I've always just been like, do it for as much as you can, while still being in the door. But I realize now that that's bad advice, because you should be paid for your time. But like the way I got in was like kind of doing it for cheap or doing it for free, and that's just how I built myself up. But I don't like, it's not for the faint of heart. Like I'm not, I was never in this for the money. And if you really want to make it in this, you can't be about the money. If you're going to do it that way, if you like land this cool gig or whatever and you're getting paid from the rip, that's great. Then you could build yourself from that. But like, I was never about the money. I just started making money, you know, like I've been doing this for 6, 8. I've had my camera for 8 years, but like, I guess 6 years, you know, and it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how to.
No, I would like for push, me. I want you to explain that, because again, like a lot of people are so like delusional about like this industry, and like like from the outside people who are on camera, right? You can tell like, oh, he's reading a sponsor ad, whatever, so he's clearly getting paid, right? But there's this whole apparatus which is like supporting the system, and they get paid, and so. But the point being, like, I want you to explain. What was your like formative like relationship with money, and how like, and whether or not you let that affect your creativity?
I was kind of lucky enough and in a good enough spot where at the beginning when I did start this, I was still living with my parents. And I did for the first 2 years until I could like afford to move out. And I always knew that I had to do that. I was lucky enough, realizing like the spot I was in, to be lucky enough to like have this position where I didn't need to make a ton of money. I didn't really have anything to pay. I just had a little loan, and then I could just pay that with that money.
At the forefront, it was always like, I just want to work in this field, right? And like money was secondary to you. Money was never the first thought on mine. I think now is so much different from when I started, even though it wasn't that long ago. Like TikTok and the internet has changed so much that everyone wants to be a creator now. Correct.
And everyone wants to like make everyone's like, oh, they make so much money. But like, if you go into anything, not even just this, like being like, I want to make money, when the times get tough, you're not going to want to keep doing it. But like, I think it's important to like actually love the art and love what you're doing, because the money will come if you stick with it. Like, that's why I say I just never had another option, because I've never thought of having another thing, because I couldn't imagine doing anything else, and the money would come eventually. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't like make it, and not make it, but like make enough money to move out eventually. Maybe I would have switched. But like, yeah, there are some days where I'm just like, man, this would be nice if someone could just like tell me what to do, or just like have a set amount of things. And those days happen, but like the better days outweigh that by so much that
no, 100%.
Those days don't really affect as much.
So let's like jump back to time a bit. Like, so like once you started working for Francis.
Yeah.
So what was that like, working in the same space as someone who was super intentional about the product they want to put out?
Welcome back to Oops, the podcast. I'm Francis Ellis, and I'm joined by my co-host, Giulio Gallerati.
What up, fucking Oops, the fucking
podcast? That's it. So
At that point, it's not just about what you want. It's also about what the client wants and also what the audience wants.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Working with him was great. In a sense, it was good that they know what they wanted, so that I can cater my skills towards that.
So you're like a piece of puzzle. Yeah.
I didn't know how to make podcasts when I started with them, but I like slowly.
So you're saying you didn't have like 25 years of experience?
No, I didn't. And for like the first 6 or 7, I just like didn't have it together. There's like this tiny thing that made the podcast sound bad, and then I finally like figured it out what it was, and then they just started sounding good, and then that's when I was like, oh, I can like relax. But it was good working with people that knew what they wanted, because I can kind of cater my skills around that and just kind of hone in on what they need. And then from once I like learn what they need, I can kind of branch out and do other things and work through other stuff, because I know I have this core basis of they want this, but I think it would be cool if we did this. Or just like, even like as soon as Reels came out or TikTok, I just like was like, we need to start doing this. We need to start doing this immediately. And I was right, and then our stuff started doing well, and yeah.
So, like what you just said in the end, like that's not something which traditionally is the job of a quote unquote cameraman.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it was dictated by your know-how of the social space.
Yeah.
Right. And talk to me about like how important it is for people in this space, like the creator space, to actually be kind of like quote unquote like a jack of all trades, or if not a jack, but like just know what works and what doesn't work. Like your work doesn't end as soon as you hit export. Like you should also be conscious about like how it's doing and how it can grow.
Yeah, I think that this is where being a consumer of YouTube and social media came in. I just like knew right away that we needed to be doing this, because I just like saw that it would do well, and I knew where it would lead. And you have to be a consumer if you want to like put stuff out. I feel like you don't have to be a consumer, but I think that if you want to like kind of grow and like see what works, you have to like pay attention and be intentional with what you watch. Like, don't just watch like, I don't know, bad videos, or just like watch videos about filmmaking if you want to do film, or watch videos about makeup if you want to do makeup. You know, I think it helps a ton. And being in that space, I just like knew what we needed to do, just like subconsciously, because it was like, I'm gonna make what I want to see. So that was kind of
that is so unique and different, because like I come from like a mainstream background, so there are like people who are like camera ops or like sound people or lighting people, and they're so insulated, right, from the rest of the apparatus, because like they work for unions and they know what their jobs are, they know what hours they work, and they know what they're gonna get paid, and maybe that's all they need to be happy, and that's totally fine, whatever. But at the same time, like this generation, and specifically people who want to intentionally work in the creator space, like they can't work like that, because like they like, if you are a good, I don't know, like if you're a really good camera operator, you still have to know, like when you are making a reel, it's a vertical product. You can't just shoot at 16:9 and put it out. So like those little like nuances, I think it's kind like you have to be on the same page and not just be insulated from the rest of the craft.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, when whatever you said to Francis that worked, what was the feedback that you got from him, and how did it sustain for the rest of the podcast?
It just kind of slowly grew. We were just like posting our clips online. And yeah, the clip started doing better. We started getting views and stuff. And yeah, they were like happy about it. It started doing well. We started getting paid more. We started getting more ads. Yeah, shout out to them too, because they really monetized our podcast well. They were like out getting ads and making sure we made money. And yeah, it's been great.
So like, that's like a growth of a podcast,
Yeah.
basically. And at the same time, how do you keep yourself up with that growth and making sure that, hey, I still want to be part of this business and I still want to grow with y'all? So what was that like? Was that like a set discussion, or was it just
that was always a discussion from the beginning. We are all, me, Francis, and Julia, we're all very open people. We're like, we want to talk about things. And even from the beginning, when they hired me, they were like, listen, like, we can't like pay you that much, but like in the future we will. And we hope you can like trust this. And I was like, yes, I'm in a position where I can do that. And so it was always a part of the conversation that as things like would go up, I would grow with them.
You, on top of being a creative, and also like most creatives, it's one thing to be like good at your craft, and it's also another thing to be actually a good worker and a good like employee. So talk to me about like that side of your job where you're actually like putting the hours in the mine.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it all happens, really. I mean, the filming is like 10, 20, like 30% of it, and the most of it happens behind a screen. And this is where my YouTube watching and edit, I started making, I don't know when I officially started making videos, but my first YouTube upload was like in 2008. So I've always kind of been a video editor and love that. And that's carried me through my life and what I do now. And I don't know, I just like love editing, and the thing I love the most about it is like filming and editing and doing the whole thing. I'm not as big of a fan of like having someone send me footage and editing, because while I'm filming, I'm like editing it in my brain. It's like, oh, I'm not going to film that because I'm not going to use it. And I know I won't. So I love like seeing the whole thing through and really just like putting the hours behind the computer editing and kind of just being a student of the game in YouTube. And like when you see someone else doing something cool, oh, how did they do that? And then just kind of like learning through experimenting. And yeah.
Oh, you said like editing, and like at this point, editing is kind of like, I don't know, like this universal language, basically, where you can tell like a good edit from a bad edit. And I'm not saying like everyone has to be like an After Effects motion graphics genius.
Yeah, I don't do that
But
stuff.
but at the same time, like if you are like a young cameraman or a creator stepping into the space, I think it's not the worst thing that, not actually, you have to kind of like learn how to at least operate with Premiere or iMovie, whatever you use, so that your career has legs.
Yeah,
right.
And I also tell anybody who asks me for advice about making anything, like, no matter what you're doing right now, video is the most important thing online, and TikTok and Reels, and it's not going anywhere. So I tell everyone, like, learn how to edit videos, and like, you don't have to enjoy it, but you need to know how to do it, because whatever you're doing, it'll help your business or it'll help whatever. Like, every video is not going anywhere. And yeah, it's like the biggest skill you can have right now.
This is like my little qualm with like people who say that I don't like editing. Like, it's one thing, like if like, let's say like someone, I don't know, like they have a makeup channel, right? And they are a makeup YouTuber, and he or she is like, I really hate editing videos. I get that, because like they probably like makeup more than they like the craft of production, right? So that's totally fine. But like production people, when they say like I don't really like with editing, I'm like, dude, that's where you tell the story, right? So you kind of you can't like divorce yourself from the process, which makes or breaks your product. So what was your like formative like editing teaching your, like, since you're like self-taught, what was those self-taught years like? Like, what were you watching which told you that, hey, this is a good product? Was it like Casey's edits, or was it like
I think it was even before that? I was like editing on Sony Vegas for forever on like our home computer. And I think I just like kind of learned how to do things so that when I eventually did get Premiere, I just like looked up how to do those things, but on here. And then once I kind of like got the gist of it, I already kind of like figured it out. And then quickly became obsessed with efficiency. And that's just like all I'm about, like spending, because I get paid by like the deliverable and not by the hour. So as quick as I can do things and with like the best output or with the best outcome, like I get paid the same amount. So it only benefits me to learn how to do things faster so I can do more or spend less time doing it. So just kind of learning the system I'm working on, and I just kind of became obsessed with like learning how to do things the fastest once I like dialed in what I know, and just kind of grew from there.
That's awesome. Let's talk about like another client of yours, Matteo, and talk to me about like what's it like to work with someone. I don't know, like when I watch his content, it's like, because when you watch Francis, like you can tell like he's a stand-up comedian and he's just great at talking. That's super cool. But at the same time, when you watch Matteo, he's like so many different things at the same time. And what makes me super happy is like watching someone like that flourish on YouTube, because only in YouTube it is possible for someone to talk about their comedy, talk about their gaming, talk about their cooking, and like everything else in between. So like what's it like to be part of all those different genres for one specific guy at the same time?
It's awesome. It feels very similar to me and just the way I am. So we've like complemented each other so well. Like whatever he wants to do, I like that thing too. I love cooking and eating and games and like all this stuff and comedy. And so it just kind of like we work really well together and understanding like what each other wants. And like at the beginning, that was the only part, or not even from the beginning. He was just like, do whatever. And he just like loved what I made, and he's just always trusted me and my vision. And that just like feels really nice being trusted, and he knows that it's going to come out cool. And there's very minimal edits on our stuff. He's very,
how has it been like growing with him as his creative guy? Because like he has like kind of like catapulted in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I started with him full time in May, I think, and we were at like 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now we're about to hit 500K.
That's awesome.
It's been awesome. It's nice seeing all these things do well, and now like having an audience for them and only growing that. It's just like addicting, you know. It's just seeing those numbers, and it's not even really about the numbers, but just like doing the next thing, and this would be a fun video. We should do this, and hey, why don't I bring you to Italy and we'll just film a bunch and just,
what was that like?
It was awesome.
Because wait, hold on. So you finally got to go to Italy?
Yeah. I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? So like everything does happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of like a meta question, but I have a lot of friends who are like you. They work in the production space. And I would say like a solid 60% of those people take up production as a gateway for themselves to be on camera, right? I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm just saying like, at any point did you feel that, hey, what I'm doing is cool and it can also like inspire other people? And I don't know about you, I'm just saying like in general, like that person may or may not have a personality to showcase. So has that thought ever crossed in your mind that, hey, I want to tell my story now?
Yeah, I'm like slowly starting to do that.
Okay, that's awesome.
In my own videos and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's all kind of personal stuff. But no, I've never really wanted to be on camera. And weirdly, I feel like that's helped me.
Okay.
Because I feel like a lot of people that get into this, like you said, want to be on camera. And then that can kind of fog their vision of how do I get there? But I've always just kind of been about like being behind the scenes. And I just like love editing and love seeing that final product and filming and just like seeing it all the way through. But I'm starting to like finally tell stories now. I've kind of like finally figured out a formula for me to make videos, and I'm excited about that. And the next year I plan to do
the reason that I bring that up is like, again, like it's okay if someone doesn't want to talk about themselves, but at the same time, like what I'm trying to do with this and all that is like there's this whole industry which scaffolds the creator economy, right? I.e. your production people, your lighting people, your camera people who know YouTube, the agents, etc., etc. And from the outside, it looks like they don't exist, right? Because you don't see them.
Yeah.
So I think it's only fair for someone who wants to be more vocal about their craft to do so, because that may end up like inspiring like other people who do want to get involved in this space, but not necessarily in a way which is like, hey, I want to be a personality. But at the same time, oh, I kind of like this. This is cool. This is kind of more interesting than what I do in school, and I want to get involved somehow, right?
Yeah.
So like somehow kind of like talking about the more insider baseball talk, so that those people be like, oh, that's cool. I want to be a part of it. So I don't know what your vision is with your craft, but like I think if you want to do it, you totally should do it.
Yeah. No, I have. I don't just want to like make normal videos like, oh, this is how you do that. I want to like tell cool stories, and I have a bunch of stuff planned, and I like just kind of figured out how to do it. I made this like one fall video that came out really cool, and I was excited about that. And then ever since that video, we went to Italy, and I made this other video for Matteo, and this way of telling stories, and I like finally figured out how to do it in my style, and it feels really nice because the Italy video we did was like my favorite video I've ever made, and somehow I like turned it around in 4 days, and it was like 5 hours of footage. But that's where like I love doing this, and that's why it benefits me to do that, because I just like wanted to finish this video, and I knew I would. And yeah, I don't know if that answers.
No, that does answer the question. And you like obviously right now you're in New York. You work with people who are in New York.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like working in like this space in specific, and how that helps your opportunities and networking going forward.
When I did start working on this podcast with Francis and Julio, they're stand-ups, so they needed people to film the show. So then I would go film the show, and then through that I would meet other people, and then I started doing like podcast clips for other people, and then just kind of meeting people through that. And that's kind of how I built out my network of people and meeting the right people and just kind of being around. I think it's important to like be around if you want to be in this scene. Not that I'm like hanging out at clubs, but just like getting tagged in things and people like realizing that I'm doing this. That's important to it.
Like the osmosis definitely helps.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Because like there is no set like when you work in the traditional space, like anytime there's like a new hire, right now, there is like a newsletter release. We call them like newsletter hires.
Okay.
Like if someone got like a new manager comes in this company, we hire from Forbes, whatever. So like the other people, like the LinkedIn dudes, they would find out about this new guy in town, whatever. I think like something similar to that kind of like is necessary for like the creators in the space, because like there would be no other way for them to like pop out and showcase that, hey, I am working with this guy and you can ask me to work with you. And that's cool.
Yeah, and also just like being here, if someone like hits me at like 7 o'clock and is like, there's a show at 8, being able to go to that show and just like be ready for it is awesome. And because sometimes that'll happen. It doesn't happen too often, but at the beginning it was happening, and being able to be around and just like go was super important for me, I think.
So like just being around helps. Like 70% of the job is like showing up to say.
Yeah.
So that's cool. At this point of your career, I would say like 6 years down the line, has your definition of quote unquote success changed? How are you equating like success in the space? Like more clients, more money, making cool shit? Like what's your barometer for success?
I guess I kind of measure it in like money.
Okay. That's how we're wired, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but just like as long as I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, as long as I'm happy doing it, and the money's like I have enough to pay rent and buy groceries, then it's just like it's all additional. And I think just like, I guess success for me now comes from hitting my next goals, and like just realizing how to make these videos was like a big step for me. And now I can start making more videos like this. And yeah.
No, that's like a pretty, I would say like a common answer between like creatives, because like we like vision money as like a vehicle. Like, hey, I need money to buy new cameras. Let's get new clients so I can get that money to buy the new camera, right? Yeah. So like that's super cool that that's your vision, and that may or may not change. And like being open to that experience, I think is super important.
Yeah.
Changing gears a little bit, like it was super popular during COVID to talk about burnout, right? Because a lot of people were getting burned out for, I don't know, like if those reasons are obvious or not. So how do you define burnout for yourself? Have you ever gotten burned out doing this stuff? And whether or not do you think it's a privilege to get burned out? Because some people can't afford getting burned out.
I feel like I'm always burnt out. Working on podcasts and like working with Matteo and having like a set schedule, being on like retainers and stuff, I have to do these things, and whether or not I am burnt out, I have to do them.
I think that's being tired, not being burned out.
Oh, it gets to a point when you're just like, I've been doing too much and like filming shows on the weekend and like flying places, and you're like, I'm pretty tired.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think like the way I define burnout is like when you realize that my work is not going anywhere and I'm not getting satisfaction from my work. Maybe I'm in the wrong space.
Interesting. I think of burnout in that like I've been doing too much and I can't even like think about my mental health, or like I haven't gone to the gym or I haven't eaten. That's how kind of I imagine it.
Okay.
So I've been doing
so that's your definition. That's totally fine.
I've been doing too much, but that also makes sense. And
yeah, but like, okay, so like you brought up mental health, and obviously like a segue from that is like work-life balance and all that. For creatives, it's harder to make those distinctions because we get so much enjoyment from what we do. We kind of like dilute work and life, right? Working is life because I'm getting happiness from working.
Yeah.
A, do you make that distinction? And B, like, how are you conscious of that balance?
Yeah, that's really hard. That's really like the real double-edged sword of all of this, is that I can't ever take a break because it's always on my mind.
Yeah.
Even when I want to try to stop, I'm always thinking about it. But I do make a big effort to like work-life balance and not work on the weekends when I don't have to. And like during the week I'll work at night, but like when I went away to Italy, and then like I did like 5 days after when I was by myself, I was just like, I'm not touching my computer. I didn't even want to carry my camera around anymore. Like making sure that I'm like conscious of putting my things down when I don't have stuff to do. But it's also hard in that I want to make stuff for myself, and being on the computer all day and then like doing the same thing but for myself is kind of, I don't know, it's like confusing. Some days I'm like, oh, I want to work on this video of myself, but I've been on the computer for 8 hours, so it's hard to kind of balance that. But I definitely really try to balance work and life, but I don't know, they're just so intertwined because my work is my life, and it's because I didn't start it as like I want to do this to make money. Started this as a passion. It just happens to be my job now.
So like, are you happy with the relationship you have with your work right now? Or like hypothetically, like I think it's way more freeing if you're not getting paid from your work, right? Because then you're like, oh, I'm just,
worry about anything.
Like, oh, I'm just happy. This looks cool. Let's just put it out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like we're adults, we got bills to pay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that's how you kind of like measure success as well. So I'm just saying, like from a mental point of view. So like, are you happy with the relationship you have with your work as of now?
I don't know if I'm all the way happy with it, but it's so much better that I'm in a good place with it. For a while, it wasn't very good there. I just worked nonstop. But now it's much better. It's not like where I want it to be, but I'm working on. I think it's always just like a battle and constant working on it, because sometimes like it's really busy and sometimes it's not. So you just have to like accept that it's gonna be busier for a few months, and you just have to eat that and do it.
Yeah, I think
you don't have to, but
I think like the key there is like being like hyper conscious of your state, right? Because like, you know, like they say like you can't control the ocean, but you can control your boat, right?
Yeah.
So I think being like super conscious of like, hey, this is an ebb or this is a flow. We're like ups and downs and stuff like that. I would just ask this last question, which is, again, this podcast is kind of directed towards younger people who want to step into this industry. And from the outside, like I said, it's like a lot of fogs and mirrors. No one knows what's going on in the back end. So what's your quote unquote advice, corny or not, to people who want to step into this industry, but they don't have any idea of what's a 0 to 1 step?
make stuff that you think is cool, and people will fuck with it eventually. And if they don't, just keep making stuff until they like it, or just like make stuff for people without them asking. Like make a clip for, this is just like an example. You can use this anyway. Say there's a podcast you like make a clip and do a crazy edit for it and just like send it to them. And like, that's how I would recommend getting in now, or just like, I don't know, just kind of do what you like because you're in a good part where you're not getting paid for things and it's still fun. And not that it doesn't get fun, but like it's just you're excited about it, and just like stay true to yourself, because that's what will come through in your work and stuff. But yeah, I think
that's pretty cool. Hey, thanks for taking your time. Your work is awesome.
Thank you.
I just hope that, you know, like you being so true to your art is unique. I mean, it's not unique within people who are just photographers or just videographers, because I know a lot of people are those. But at the same time, people like you who work with clients on the daily, them still being true to their art form is actually super cool.
Yeah.
So congrats, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time.
Appreciate it.